This video is brought to you by Sticker Mule. Spencer Lee is unfortunately out for the remainder of the 2021-2022 season. This isn't a joke. This is very unfortunate news to hear. We're going to talk about what went into this decision for Spencer Lee, as well as results from over the holiday with the MatMen Open and Southern Scuffle. So let's stop stalling and start talking wrestling. What's going on, wrestling fans? My name is Josiah, and welcome to Fanco Wrestling, your source for wrestling news and discussion. And on this week's wrestling headlines, talking about everything happening in the happy new year. But unfortunately, it's not so happy for Iowa fans or anybody who is a fan of Spencer Lee, because he went onto Twitter to make his announcement with the unfortunate news that he is not returning for this season. It was my goal, he says, to compete this year for this team and with my teammates that I care so much about. But when I returned to competition, it became clear I would not be able to perform as I did in the prior year due to the instability in both knees and extreme soreness during and after my competition. So of course he's talking about the 3 matches that he's wrestled so far this year. Yes, he won all of them, but it seemed apparent that he had some sort of nagging injury in his knees because he did not get surgery. He went on to say, as a result, my coaches, medical staff, and family believe the best course of action at this time is surgery, so when I return, I can compete to my full potential. As I said, this is, such a shame for obviously for college wrestling fans who love seeing Spencer Lee wrestle, obviously for Iowa fans who love watching Iowa win with Spencer Lee in charge at 125 pounds, but more than anything, it's upsetting for Spencer Lee, who had the goal to win this team championship with Iowa, and that still may happen this year. Do not discount the fact that the Iowa Hawkeyes are still one of the most dominant teams in college wrestling. And before we talk about anything more with Spencer Lee, I obviously put out my prayers for Spencer Lee right before I filmed this video, just because I hope that he is getting the recovery that he needs to heal up so he can return to the mat and accomplish his goals, whether in college wrestling or in the Olympics or whatever he is competing in wrestling and in life. So it seemed kind of the timeline here is he was injured in 2019 with a torn ACL in the national finals, pursued rehab right after that, and he kind of talked about that in that post. So he pursued rehab after the 2019 NCAA finals when he tore his ACL, but he decided not to get surgery then, and he recovered fine. He wrestled in the, I believe it was a senior nationals, and ended up winning that event, and so he decided to continue with college wrestling through 2020, 2021. He was fine, and then he got to the Big Ten championships when he had another hurt ACL. He decided to continue to wrestle through the NCAA championships and ended up winning. Of course, we know after that he made his famous excuses are for wusses. He's going to wrestle with or without ACLs, and that's what he did. He won the national championships. And my question kind of from then until now was, why wouldn't Spencer Lee get surgery? And that seemed to be answered because he said he didn't get surgery because he didn't get surgery last time, and it worked out well for him. He was fine. And so he thought he would be able to make it through one more season, win his 4th national title, help his team win a title. But with talking to his family, talking to the medical professionals, it seems like that just wasn't an option this time, unfortunately. So what's next for Spencer Lee is he's going to take, it seems like he's going to get surgery, which could take up to 9 months potentially, just looking at other ACL injuries to kind of heal up and get back on the mat. He's going to probably have to apply for a medical red shirt since he already wrestled a couple matches this year, although he does still have a red shirt available for if he does get that medical red shirt for next year, and we may see him next season, we may see him in 2 seasons. But, all the best to Spencer Lee as he continues on. And that's going to bring us to the MatMen Open results. So let's talk about what happened at the MatMen Open. But first, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this video sponsor, Sticker Mule. Let's head over to the whiteboard so I can talk more about that. Sticker Mule is offering wrestling fans a very special offer of 10 stickers for $1. Between you and me, there's absolutely no comparison between Sticker Mule and any of their opponents. That's why I keep going back to Sticker Mule for my stickers, my magnets, my shirts, even their mule sauce. They keep on winning because their stickers are durable, they're weatherproof, and they're cut to your specifications. They're going to work with you and make sure that you get the product you want for your headgear, for your laptop, for your business, whatever you're using their products for. If I have a bold prediction about
about your order, it's that you're going to be blown away. You can get your special offer down in the description below. 10 stickers for $1 only at Sticker Mule. Now let's get back to the video.
Thanks again to Sticker Mule for sponsoring Fanco Wrestling and the MatMen Open. First of all, if you didn't hear about the MatMen Open, which these are the finals results that happen right here, Northwestern canceled Midlands with very short notice. I mean, within a couple days' notice, out of an abundance of caution due to everything going on with the virus. So a few wrestling heads got together with Intermat and Mat Scouts and Illinois MatMen, and they decided to host a tournament themselves. Now, what was interesting here is that actually, although Northwestern canceled Midlands, they still decided to wrestle a couple of dual meets, which I still can't wrap my head around. But nonetheless, this tournament still happened. The MatMen Open still happened in the same arena with a lot of the same teams. And I want to talk about some of the matches to note here, starting at 149 pounds, which was Josh Heil and Austin Gomez. Honestly, one of my favorite matches of the entire evening. Heil of Campbell and Gomez of Wisconsin. Heil bumped up to 149 last year after previous seasons wrestling there. Gomez bumped up this year after wrestling lower and actually even returning this year from after transferring to Wisconsin. Now, these two battled tooth and nail, let me tell you. Gomez was on the attack the entire match, very aggressive. And it was honestly kind of annoying to hear the announcers this match because they were favoring him heavily. You know, whether you like Gomez or whether you like how whatever it was, like you gotta at least kind of your bias, you're gonna shoot through a little bit. But man, it was like every little thing they were getting on Gomez, and I understand it. The announcer was like friends with him, but anyway, getting back to the match. Heil was a bit more defensive, which is typically how he wrestles. He's wrestled a bit more controlled, while Gomez is a bit more like chaotic. He's going to make crazy stuff happen, and he almost did on the end, at the end of that match, whenever he almost got a takedown on the edge, and I was just so impressed by Josh Heil's resilience and just like mat IQ there, being able to just be so smart on the edge of the mat and not let up a takedown. If you're a Wisconsin fan, maybe you thought it was a takedown, but Heil ended up coming through in sudden victory and getting a win 3-1, which was one of my favorite matches, like I said, of the entire event. At 165, oh my gosh, we have to talk about this kid. Dean Hamidi of Wisconsin. So although his teammate Gomez lost, Hamidi won the tournament in a major way. He made his mark on college wrestling, the true freshman. He scored 59 offensive points on his way to a title. And that was over 4 matches, 59 points over 4 matches. So yeah, he had a lot of bonus point victories, including when he pinned Zach Hartman of Bucknell, who was an All-American last year. He majored Dan Bronigal of Illinois, and he had 2 techs on top of that, including one in the finals over Philip Canigliaro of Harvard. And Canigliaro just beat Jake Wenzel, who was last year's national finalist. Hamidi is somebody at 165. We talked about, obviously, Marinelli's the top guy at the weight. Evan Wick, Carson Karchla, a freshman at the weight who's tough to watch. Keegan O'Toole of Mizzou, and now Dean Hamidi has really made his mark this year at the weight. And I'm excited to see where he goes moving forward. And before we talk about the marquee matchup between Mark Hall and Miles Amin, Edmund Ruth wrestled right before them. Who won the event. He was unattached, but actually right after this, and yes, that is brother to Ed Ruth, Edmund Ruth. He just committed to Illinois after this event. Not my favorite match of the night, but still an impressive win for Ruth. And yes, the marquee matchup between Miles Amin and Mark Hall. Now, Amin had never beat Mark Hall while Mark Hall was in college wrestling for Penn State. Now, Mark Hall was able to wrestle in this event, and that may be what you're questioning. He was able to wrestle in this event because it is open. It's open to anybody who wants to wrestle in it, whether you're in college or post-college. Even there are guys that were in high school that have wrestled at the Midlands Championships before. But at the MatMen, Mark Hall decided to wrestle in the event and get some tough competition against Miles Amin. Now, Amin ended up winning the match 4-2, on a danger call is how he won the match. It was it's not the most fun way to win a match on a danger call, but that's essentially what it came down to, and Amin won. Now, Hall ended up going on Twitter saying some stuff later about how, it's tough getting back into folk style, but that's essentially his last match. And it is interesting to watch guys who I mean, he hasn't wrestled folks on a couple years since he left college. He's wrestled freestyle. That's been his main style. But now coming back into it, I mean, it's not easy. It's not easy, especially when you're going up against an Olympic bronze medalist in Miles Amin. At 197, Greg Bolzak defeated NCAA finalist Nino Bonacorsi. I wasn't necessarily expecting this to happen. I thought it'd be a pretty tough matchup, and these two guys are, PA guys who've been at different weights throughout their careers. But it was a good win for Bolzak, who is 12-0 on the season now, and will continue to wrestle some tough competition in the upcoming weeks. Pitt ended up winning the event. They won the MatMen Open with 121.5 points over University of Pennsylvania at 118, and just below them was Wisconsin. A phenomenal event put on by MatMen, and I'm just grateful for everybody who put the event together. So let's get on to the Southern Scuffle, which was the first tournament of the new year. Super exciting. This was live on Flow Wrestling, and by the way, I have everything linked up down in the description below for you. If you want to check out the results, the matches, everything's there for you to go watch. Just easy, direct access. And honestly, an impressive performance by Mizzou that they put on at the tournament. Mizzou had 10 placers. 5 of those guys were finalists, and 2 of them won the event. We're going to talk about a couple of those guys starting at 125. And honestly, I mean, I don't know how you are, but I didn't watch the event live on January 1st and January 2nd. I ended up watching afterwards. I just don't really like wrestlers wrestling on the holidays. And, for me, the holidays are a time to spend with your friends and your family and the people close to you. And so that's what I was doing rather than watching wrestling that day. I was able to catch up later on. But, I'm not a big fan of Scuffle and Midlands set right during the holiday time, even though it's the middle of wrestling season. It's just something that sits wrong with me about it. I wish those guys were able to spend more time with their family. But, the teammates are family. But anyways, if you have an opinion on that, I'd love to hear it, but just voicing what I have to say. At 125, Drake Ayala of Iowa placed third, wrestling unattached. Now, no, he didn't win the tournament, but the reason I'm bringing him up is because he's likely going to be Spencer Lee's replacement this year, should he step into 125 pounds as the starter. I think that's likely going to be what happened, especially because of how well he wrestled at this event. He lost to Pat McKee, who is an All-American, lost to him in the semifinals just by 6-5, close loss, and then McKee ended up winning the whole thing at 125 pounds. Moving on to 141, and yeah, these are just a couple of the big matchups that I want to talk about. It's just so you know exactly what happened. Alan Hart fought his way he's fighting his way to the NCAA championship podium this year, right? He made the round of 12 last year. Hart of Mizzou at 141 wants to get there. He beat the number 1 seed in Clay Carlson, who was an All-American last year, and he's making his stand that he should be there. Now, he made the finals, but he ultimately lost to Real Woods of Stanford in the finals, who got shut out. Woods won that match over Hart 4-0. At 157, we saw Brock Mahler bump up from 149 to 157, and he ended up losing actually in the semis to Chase Saldate, who ultimately made the finals. Now, Saldate was beat by Jared Franek of North Dakota State at 157, which was a good match. At 165, one of the most impressive performances of this tournament of the Southern Scuffle was Keegan O'Toole, who won every match. I mean, just a point off by winning every match by bonus. I think it was the quarters that he won just 11-4, so 7 points. I mean, almost the major that he got there. But he ended up having 2 majors, a decision, and 2 falls. One of those falls being over Will Formato of Appalachian State, who he pinned him in a cradle in the semifinals. And one of the outstanding wrestlers of the tournament didn't get the OW. I'll talk about the guy that did. But, I mean, O'Toole is really making his case for why he should be a Hodge Trophy contender. And honestly, now that Spencer Lee's not wrestling this season, it's kind of open. I know that obviously Stevenson's going to be the top guy who could win it, but there are a lot of other guys who are making their case for a Hodge Trophy. Kyle Corkin at 184, while not necessarily a Hodge Trophy contender yet, of Maryland, had a really good tournament. And I know that Maryland hasn't had the best couple of seasons, but this year they're really coming alive, and they're exciting to watch. They really are. I'll be honest with you. I think they started the year maybe like 3-0 or like 3 straight wins, something along those lines. And Kyle Cochran is somebody on Maryland who's also stepping it up. He upset the number 3 seed. I think he was like number 6 seeded. He upset the number 3 seed and Jeremiah Kent of Mizzou in the quarters. Went on to beat the number 2 seed Hunter Bolin of Virginia Tech in the semis and won the whole thing over Jonathan Lowe of Cornell in the finals 4-1. And he was looking really tough on top. Cranked up some riding time against a couple of these guys, including I think it was over 2 minutes over Bolin. Got a minute and a half maybe over Lowe, and then. He was looking good on his feet, too. Got a couple takedowns on Bolin. Got a takedown to secure the victory over Lowe in the finals. And, what an impressive performance by Cochran. At 197, Michael Beard of Penn State has been in a fight for the starting position at Penn State with Max Dean. And, unfortunately, he had a great tournament, right? He beat Cam Caffey of Michigan State in the semis, which was a good win for him. And then he went on to the finals, but was injured by Rocky Elam in the finals. In the first 2 minutes, Elam was in on his knee, and you could kind of see he was hurting. He came back in to wrestle, and then at the end of the period, coaches just called it. They said, no, we're not going to send you back out there. So he medically forfeited or injury defaulted, which was kind of a shame to see that, but we'll see. I'm praying for his kind of recovery and seeing who ends up getting that starting spot against him and Max Dean come finals, end of the season time. Air Force's Wyatt Hendrickson ended up getting the outstanding wrestler of the tournament, and it's not a huge surprise why. He had 3 falls, a tech, and a major decision, which was an impressive performance by Hendrickson. And anybody, there were a couple guys who could have got the outstanding wrestler. Honestly, Cochran was an impressive with a couple of those upsets. Hendrickson with all of those bonus point victories. And then Keegan O'Toole was somebody else who just dominated his way through the tournament. Now, Mizzou, of course, won the event in a big landslide, but then there's this other piece of news that you may have missed in everything else that's been going on over the last couple weeks, and it's that Penn State has a new 125-pounder. Drew Hildebrand enrolled at Penn State, and we saw he was enrolled at Penn State at the World Campus I think it was like maybe a month or two ago, and so we assumed that there have been rumors going around that he's going to be Penn State's new starter, and Penn State doesn't necessarily like to make any major announcements about anything. But now he's listed on Penn State's roster. He's listed on their website. He's listed at 125 pounds. So come the second half of the year, which is now, we could see Hildebrand starting very soon. He's convinced to transfer to Penn State from Central Michigan, an All-American national place winner last year at Central Michigan. His sister, Sarah Hildebrand, Olympic medalist, is actually training at State College as well, so you have that family connection there, and it's awesome to see that he's officially listed on the roster. Now, speaking of some big things happening in the future, on Monday, January 3rd, Michigan and Arizona State are wrestling live on Flow Wrestling. I have that linked up down in the description below so you can sign up to Flow Wrestling to watch that event. Of course, I'll be covering all the major news that you missed right here on Fanco Wrestling, so make sure you subscribe if you're not already.